Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, my parents had what I always thought was a strong marriage. They weren't the overly affectionate type, but they had a quiet, steady love that I admired. My mother was practical, focused on stability, while my father was more easygoing and laid back. For years, they made it work, but somewhere along the way, they just drifted apart. There was no explosive cheating scandal, no vicious arguments, just a slow, inevitable unraveling. By the time they divorced, I was old enough to understand that it was for the best. They had become more like roommates than partners, and though it was sad, I knew they still respected each other. My mother focused on her career and her hobbies, while my father threw himself into fitness. He started going to the gym regularly, and it was there that he met her, my stepmother, Laura. Laura was everything I wished my father would find in a partner. She was kind, warm, and genuinely seemed to care about both of us. She didn't have children of her own, but from the moment I met her, she treated me with love and respect, like I truly mattered to her. At first, I was hesitant about my father dating again. My mother was still healing from the divorce, and I felt protective of both of them. But Laura made an effort to get to know me. She asked me about my favorite books and movies, took me shopping, and always encouraged me in school. When I was struggling with my parents' divorce, she reminded me that it was okay to feel sad, but that I was still loved. Slowly, she became a part of our lives. She was supportive of my father in a way I hadn't seen before, always making sure he took care of himself, encouraging him to pursue new hobbies, and making an effort to blend into our family. When my father and Laura got married last year, I was thrilled. He looked happy in a way I hadn't seen in years, and I was genuinely excited to have her in our lives. Their wedding was small but beautiful, a perfect reflection of their love. I even gave a heartfelt speech at the reception, talking about how much Laura had meant to me, how grateful I was that my father had found someone so wonderful. Looking back, I cringe at how naive I was. A few weeks before Thanksgiving, I called Laura to ask what time I should come over for dinner. We had our usual cheerful conversation. She told me she was excited to see me, asked how school was going, and even reminded me to bring my favorite dessert. It was nothing out of the ordinary. After we finished talking, I was about to hang up when I realized that she hadn't disconnected the call on her end. I was about to hang up myself, but then I heard another voice in the background. It was her best friend. Her friend said, "So, how are things with my name? You two still playing happy family?" I smiled to myself, thinking she would say something nice. But what came next made my blood run cold. Laura scoffed. "Ugh, I can't stand that kid. I swear, if I have to listen to one more of their stupid stories about school or their little hobbies, I'm going to lose it." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I stayed completely still, my heart pounding, and she continued. "I just have to hold on a little longer. Once she moves out of state for university, I won't have to see her ugly face anymore. It'll finally just be me and my father. Honestly, I don't know how she doesn't see how annoying she is." Tears welled in my eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to hang up. I turned on my phone's recording app and pressed record, my hand shaking. Her friend laughed. "Wow, that bad, huh? You always act like you love her." Laura sighed dramatically. "Of course I do. What am I supposed to do? Be a wicked stepmother? No, I play the long game. I need my father to trust me completely. If I push too hard, he'll notice. But once that brat is out of the house, I can finally get serious about making sure everything he has goes to me in the will. I just need more time." I sat there, completely frozen. My stomach churned as I listened to her lay out her disgusting plan. He's still so sentimental about my mother and their kid, but I can work on that. Little by little, I'll convince him to cut them out. If I play my cards right, he won't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Her friend hummed in agreement. And then what? Laura laughed. "Then I get everything, of course. The house, the savings, the investments, everything. And then, maybe a long vacation. Maybe a new husband. Who knows?" I couldn't listen anymore. My hand was gripping my phone so tightly it hurt. I hung up, my whole body shaking with rage and disgust. This woman, the one who I had adored, who I had defended to anyone who questioned my father moving on so quickly, never cared about me. She never cared about him. She was a parasite, latching onto him for financial security, using me as a pawn to maintain her act. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I went straight to my father's house. When he opened the door and saw my face, he immediately knew something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked, ushering me inside. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. "You need to listen to this." I played the recording in full. I watched as my father's expression changed, from confusion to horror to outright fury, his hands clenched into fists. When the recording ended, he was silent for a long moment. Then he stood up, grabbed his keys, and said, "Stay here." Laura didn't take it well. She tried everything, crying, begging, gaslighting. She said she was just venting and that I had misinterpreted the recording. When that didn't work, she turned nasty, accusing me of trying to tear them apart. But my father didn't waver. He packed her bags, called his lawyer, and made it clear that she was out of our lives for good. Her final words to me before she left: "You'll regret this." But I don't. Not for a second. I thought Laura was the best thing that had happened to my father. I thought she cared about me. Turns out, she was just playing the long game, waiting for the right moment to strike. And if I hadn't overheard that conversation, she might have succeeded. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for exposing my stepmother's true intentions and ruining her marriage to my father? Wow. Just wow. The sheer deception of this woman is sickening. She didn't just pretend to love OP. She actively plotted against OP while smiling to OP's face. And that long game strategy to steal everything from OP's father? Pure evil. OP saved him from being financially and emotionally ruined. The fact that she had the audacity to say OP'll regret this after being caught says it all. I hope OP's father finds peace and real love after this nightmare. And now let's hear the community's opinion. She thought she was playing 4D chess, but you caught her with a butt dial. I can't believe people like this actually exist. Who plans years in advance to manipulate their spouse into changing their will? She played herself, and the fact that she tried to gaslight you and then threaten you just proves she was never sorry. Your dad must be heartbroken, but you did the right thing. She would have drained him dry. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. You loved her like family, and to find out she was only pretending must have been devastating. The ugly face comment alone makes my blood boil. And then she thought she could erase you from your father's life? If she was willing to lie and manipulate this much, imagine what she would have done if she got everything in the will. She's lucky all she got was divorce papers. Let's take a moment to appreciate that she was so comfortable being evil that she casually discussed her scam on the phone. Like, she had zero fear of being caught, which makes me wonder how many other manipulations she's pulled off before. You didn't just expose her. You saved your father's future. Good riddance. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and about a year ago, I got engaged to the love of my life, who's 34. We've been planning this wedding since the week of our engagement, and we've tried to get everything just perfect for the wedding day. The dress, the venue, the people attending, everything. However, recently we hit a bit of a roadblock. When I was really young, my mom cheated on my dad and they had a divorce. My mom married the guy she was having an affair with. They agreed to split custody, with me being at my dad's house every other weekend. I never really liked my stepmom, for reasons I think are obvious. And I still feel that way to this day, which is why I was planning to have my real dad walk me down the aisle. My dad agreed as long as my mother wasn't there, which I think was completely understandable. My mom was surprisingly understanding when I told her. However, she begged me to at least invite my stepdad. I thought it was a pretty strange request, to be honest. I still don't know why she wanted my stepdad to go, but was completely fine with herself not coming with him. Soon afterward, I get a call from my stepdad. He tells me he was so happy he was invited, and that he was excited to walk me down the aisle. I told him he unfortunately wouldn't be walking me down the aisle, but that he was still invited. When he asked who would, I responded telling him my biological dad would. He got angry, saying that I tricked him into thinking he would walk me down the aisle only to shoot him down at the last second for my own amusement. That my biological dad wasn't my real dad anymore, and that if he wasn't going to walk me down the aisle, why invite him? I started crying and hung up, mostly because of the things he said about my dad. However, I do kind of feel like the a-hole because I led him on into thinking he would walk me down the aisle. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You didn't lead him on, your mom did. Uninvite him and have a great wedding with your dad there. At what point did you lead him on? It was silly for him to assume that just cause you invite him automatically meant he'll be the one to walk you down the aisle. Not the a-hole 100%. Not the a-hole, unless you straight out said, "Hey, do you want to come to the wedding and walk me down the aisle?" You didn't lead him on. An invitation doesn't automatically mean a part in the wedding, especially when you have your biological dad there. Uninvite him. You don't need that negativity on your day. My younger brother was getting married. I was asked to be best man, and his fiancée, now wife, almost uninvited my wife from the wedding 10 days before the event because our childcare fell through. My wife debated not attending early on, since our first kid was only 2 months old at the time. We needed to buy plane tickets. Prices were high for our budget. We ended up agreeing to go for a short trip, and my wife's parents would watch our baby at our house while we were out of state at the wedding. That childcare fell through because my father-in-law is receiving cancer treatment and was told a slot opened up for a procedure he needed to do that exact weekend in a totally different city. The next available slot was another month away, and his doctors did not recommend waiting that long. So our 7-year-old was now going to fly with us, and we were reminded she could not be at any wedding events. 2 days after learning this, 10 days before the event, my brother communicated that if we didn't have a babysitter confirmed by noon tomorrow, my wife would not be allowed at the reception, and not at the wedding since she'd have to keep our child outside of the church. Even if we found a sitter in 24 hours, she would not have a place set for her and would be expected to not attend. This was blamed on the wedding planner needing numbers. I offered, "Assume she is coming. I will inform you if she can't find someone before they ever set up the reception, and I will pay you for and eat the meal she was supposed to get." I was told, "That doesn't work for my fiancé. My fiancé says you need to confirm a babysitter by noon tomorrow, or your wife is not allowed." Against the odds, we found a sitter within the next 16 hours and attended. I had to be very delicate in my best man speech. It wasn't fun and has created a base level of distrust between our families. Am I the a-hole for distancing? We don't initiate communication or interaction. We will attend events if they are present. My family, from my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, after sister-in-law attempted to uninvite my wife from their wedding. Not the a-hole. I would probably be distant for a bit myself. Your brother should have taken your word for you when you said, "Assume she'll be there," and that should have been the end of it. I bet if you didn't have a sitter, your wife would have volunteered to not come on her own. Your brother, mostly his fiancé, created unnecessary hostility. You wouldn't have purposely snuck in your kid against their wishes. Once you are comfortable, definitely talk to your brother alone about it, but keep it calm. Not the a-hole, but I guess that you're a very nice person, because if the same thing happened to me, I'll make sure to mention about it in the speech. Not the a-hole. I don't blame you for being hurt. That was an ugly way to treat your wife. I would, however, be open to mending things in the future if they apologize and were willing to move forward. But I'm guessing they are one of those bridezilla couples who don't believe they were in the wrong. My fiancé has 3 kids, 15 female, 6 male, 5 male, and I have 2, 8 female and 10 female. My fiancé owns a duplex. He and the kids live on one side and his sister lives on the other. Each side is 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. His daughter has her own room and his son share. My daughters and I had to move in a couple months ago. Our landlord nearly doubled our rent and we just can't afford to live there, or most places in our city. I was under the impression that my kids would share his daughter's room, but when we moved in, he put a bunk bed and a curtain in the dining room. I asked about my girl sharing with his daughter, and he said no because she needs her own space. She has a lot of trauma from her bio mom, and he uses it as an excuse to give her anything she wants. The thing is, the daughter has 2 bedrooms, one with my fiancé and one with his sister. She spends more time with her aunt than with my fiancé during the day, and sleeps over with her aunt at least 3 nights a week. But now it's closer to 5 after my kids and I moved in. She's also been pretty cold towards me and my kids. My fiancé says she just needs some time and she's having some trouble adjusting. But I swear she's moving in with her aunt. I saw her drag 2 suitcases and a duffel bag to her aunt's house. When I asked about it, she said her cousin, aunt's daughter, is going to study abroad and she's going to borrow her bags. The thing is, I still see her cousin around, and my fiance's daughter's room is looking very empty. My kids hate the dining room, which is understandable, so I asked my fiance about having his daughter sleep at her aunt's house, which again is attached to our house, so my kids could have a bedroom. I reminded him that this would be temporary, just until we find a house big enough for us all, but he's refusing. I tried to tell him that this doesn't look good to any of the kids. His boys have half a room, and my kids don't even have a room, while she has 2 to herself. He's still refusing and said that if I bring this up again, he might have to reconsider our living situation, i.e., make me and my kids homeless. Am I the a-hole for suggesting that my fiance's daughter temporarily stays with her aunt next door so all of the kids can have a bedroom? You know what doesn't look good? Moving into a home where there is very obviously not enough space, without discussing the potential needs of every person who will be in that home. That's on you and your hubby-to-be, of course. There should be no "I was under the impression" in this kind of thing. The adults in this narrative are, yes, the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Basically, what I've gathered is this. 1. You can't afford to live on your own. 2. He lets you move into his house on a temporary basis. Are you paying him rent, by the way? 3. There isn't enough space so your kids don't get a bedroom. 4. His daughter suffered some past trauma and needs some space. 5. You decide, single-handedly, in a house you don't own, have no stake in, and are living as a guest, that your kid should get her room and ask him to move her over to her aunt. 6. Are you paying rent, by the way? His house, his rules. He's doing you a favor by letting you live there. I hear what you're saying about your kids not liking it, but it's temporary and was done quickly because you couldn't afford to live on your own. None of this is on his daughter to accommodate you. You're the a-hole. Here's where you lost me. She has a lot of trauma from her bio mom, and he uses it as an excuse to give her anything she wants. I'm sure it's a stressful time for all concerned, but he's doing you a massive favor. Yes, you're going to get married someday, but it doesn't sound like you're ready to live together yet. He's putting you up as a temporary solution, so you don't really get to march in and demand he changes his entire living situation and kick his daughter out of his home. Regardless of whether she has a room at her aunt's, her home is with her dad. If you don't like how he keeps his house, you're free to find somewhere else to live. I, 25 non-binary, and the youngest child of 3, 37 female and 38 female. My father passed away last year, leaving a nice house, $400,000, a car, $90,000, and some nice guitars to my mother, 63 female. Nothing for the children yet. My mother was the 4th wife, and my sister's mother was the 2nd wife. She was extremely aggressive to her children, which is why he left her. My father lived modestly up until 20-some years ago, and my sisters lived with my grandfather during most of their childhood. But my mother tried to adopt them when they were 6. They refused, wanting to stay with the grandmother. My mom respected their wishes, but kept the option open. When they graduated high school and my father bought a house, he offered them room to live rent-free and go to college. They refused and went into debt for school. 2 Christmases ago, he offered to pay for plane tickets so they could spend Christmas with us. They declined, saying they wanted to see our cousin for Christmas. My father was heartbroken as he was severely disabled, sick, and we all suspected he didn't have much time left. He passed away last September, and finally my sisters came to visit for the service. They also wanted his guitars, which my mother allowed them too, but then they even tried to take his personal items, like his favorite leather jacket, which they didn't have permission to take. Last year, they didn't visit us for Christmas. They never visit us. We usually visit them. My mother is angry with them and is thinking of cutting them off, but she wants to give them one more chance next Christmas. I'm tired of being the one to make all of the effort on our side of the family. I think she should just cut them out of her will and ignore them. Would I be the a-hole if I encouraged her to give up on my sisters and cut them out of inheriting what my father left her? I think I might be the a-hole because in the end, I benefit. Not the a-hole. I can see why you're upset, and you have every right to feel your emotions. It never ceases to amaze me that people will leave, the one who doesn't do for them or put time in. Your sisters have made no effort beyond coming to take. If your mom has them in the will, I'd take them out and give to the ones who have been there. An option she can do is to redo the will and leave them nothing, and if they try on their end to be better, she can always go in and adjust it to add them back. I wouldn't advertise that and leave it to them to genuinely reach out to be more active in your, mom and yours, lives. It's not wrong to leave the door open, but at some point, reality has to set in. Not the a-hole. I can see why this is upsetting you, but he was their father. They had an aggressive mother, and there's nothing wrong with them opting to be with their biological grandmother instead of letting your mother adopt them. I suspect your father would have wanted some money to go to all his children, and you would be the a-hole if you don't honor this. I don't understand why you and your mother expect them to spend Christmas with you. Not the a-hole, but I really think you're blinded by who your dad was to you. He might have been a good dad to you, but just the info you laid out makes it very unlikely he was a good dad to them. He was disabled before he even had kids. That's why wife number 1 left. He then remarried and had 2 kids, bounced his kids to grandparents, did his best to support and visit them, which could mean a lot of things. Manages to get married again twice, but still does not share a household with his kids. My ex and I, mid-20s, broke up 5 months ago after a 6-month relationship. Short but serious and intense. We talked about marriage and kids, etc. In the final month or so together, I gave him a 24-karat gold band from my birth mother who passed when I was a child, as a token of my love for him. I initially said he could keep it during the process of breaking up because I felt bad, but now I want it back given the sentimental value. My birthday and my birth mom's death anniversary is soon, so I miss her extra. A month after the breakup, I asked for the ring back, and he didn't say no, but was very unwilling to set a time, saying he was traveling most of the month. A friend spotted him during that month on a date wearing my ring. Before we could set a time, he asked for feedback on our relationship. I said that I didn't like the person I was with him, loss of routines, unhealthy habits, etc., and gave some examples, probably a paragraph in total. He initially thanked me, then woke up the next day and told me he was extremely offended. I apologized for not acknowledging the good in our relationship enough in our prior convo, to which he never responded. Since then, I've texted him twice with no response on getting the ring back. Even told him that my birth mom's death anniversary is coming up. Am I the a-hole for saying he can keep it, then asking for it back? Was my feedback too harsh? Soft yes, the a-hole, not for wanting the ring back, but for giving it to him in the first place. Most relationships do not work out. Giving something irreplaceable is a huge mistake. Whether you ever get it back lies in someone else's hands now. Good luck. No, a-hole, you made a huge mistake. Morally, he should give it back. However, if he doesn't want to or has sold it, there isn't much you can do. You need to own up to your actions. The mistake is yours to give something so precious, especially for a short-term relationship. You're the a-hole. You made the mistake of giving an extremely sentimental gift to someone you've only dated 6 months. But a gift is a gift. That ring is his to do with as he pleases now. When I used to work warehouse, there had been this lady who constantly talked badly about her oldest child. She stated how much she disliked her and that she couldn't wait to kick her out. She had already started packing her daughter's things while she was still in high school and 17, since she wanted to have her leave at exactly 18. This woman was a piece of work. One day, I overhear her talking to our coworker how she is going to get all this new stuff, since she was going to get money from her daughter's inheritance from her daughter. Her daughter was getting it from her dad's side. Lady was divorced. When coworker asked EM how much her daughter was planning to give her, she said that it was all hers, that she was going to demand it all from her daughter, or else she was going to kick her out. How she had to give up so much in her life taking care of this ungrateful child, and that she deserved it all since she raised her. A week or two later, her coworker asked her if she had gotten her new stuff, and she just complains about how when she's demanded the money, her daughter just pretty much told her to duck off, and she went to live with her friend. That she couldn't believe her daughter did that to her, and that she was glad she was out of the house. She even went as far as to state that, to be petty, she stole her daughter's own phone and planned on using it. Her daughter was planning on selling it, but the EM refused to give it back, and the daughter didn't want to fight her about it anymore and let her have it. The thing is that it's locked, and the EM couldn't get it to work. I never did find out if she managed, since she quit because she didn't feel appreciated at her job. She was a crap worker. I hope her daughter can build a better life with that inheritance. How can someone be so bitter? Why did you have kids in the first place if you're not going to treat them well? For duck's sake. Yep, definitely time to end that relationship with the mom. Sounds like she couldn't care less about the daughter and just wants her money. I don't know why she thought she would actually get it though. Probably delusional.